It was an election with so much at stake, a choice largely between an incumbent seeking retention and an opposition looking to recapture power. Beyond the thinly veiled jabs and political rhetorics were genuine security concerns.
One thing that government should be particular about, or the Electoral Commission should be particular about, on December 7th is to make security available, beef up the security system.
Even practitioners in the security sector had concerns.
When you bring in new recruits who have no experience in election monitoring, the confusion, the allied forces are themselves a threat to internal security on election day, because not every one of them, 60-something thousand of them, not every one of them is trained in election monitoring.
Ghana's Election Security Task Force, headed by the Inspector General of Police, James Opombueno, would make assurances to supervise a peaceful election. But what followed were incidents of violent clashes and disturbances in some constituencies. The task force announced as at December 9, a total of 61 electoral and post-electoral incidents had been recorded nationwide. Out of a number, 21 were described as true cases of electoral violence, with 6 involving gunshots claiming 5 lives. The National Election Security Task Force revealed the violent clashes occurred in the Ododo-Diodio, Ablekuma Central and Ewutu Senya constituencies, the Savelugu constituency and the hugely contested Tichiman South constituency also witnessed some deadly incidents. Some have accused the task force of using soldiers to intimidate voters on election day. But the IGP, James Opombueno, has shut down such claims.
The military, as well as the operational units of the Ghana Police Service, were not involved in the duties at the polling stations themselves, but were called in under rapid response and in emergency situations only.
These explanations have done little to stop series of protests by aggrieved NDC members. In Accra, Ashaiman, Tamale, Bolgatanga and Techiman, party supporters have been pouring onto the streets. Security analyst Adib Sani believes the security task force should have prepared for such incidents.
It's safe to say that the security services went to sleep after the election because a lot of them were tempted to think that once the election is over, everybody is going to be fine. But let's not forget that there are some areas where there's so much contention and pressure. A lot of people might be frustrated by the whole process, and some find violence or belligerence as the only means to vent out their frustration. So I expected that we maintain the security protocols on the ground.
He wants the police to properly manage some of these protests to prevent the escalation of violence.
Some officers feel that the only way out is to use force, but in some cases, rather using force can, quite mess up the whole situation. So officers should try as much as they can to be as diplomatic as possible and only use force when they have no other option.
Are there lessons that have been learnt? Adib Sani believes so.
The security arrangement has been skewed towards the first 2 phases, that is pre-election and election day, and we seem not to have a strategy for post-elections. The security should have rather actually been stepped up after the election. So the overall changes should be made to include post-election period as precarious period so far as security is concerned.
Local and international media coverage of the December 7 process has been dominated by the bloodshed and violence, and we may just have let ourselves down once again. Komla Adum, TV3 News, Accra.